Okay, it looks like I'm recording over here. Hello, YouTube. We are here for how I healed autism naturally. I'm going to go over who I am and what I do and how I did what I did. Same over here. Let's see who's joining. Hi, Aunt Josephine. Nice to see you. We got Aunt Josephine from New York over here. So I'm originally from New York, so we might see some New Yorkers over here. All right, so we got everything going. That's on, that's on. So I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for being here. And I know, like, with traffic and everything, you stayed longer to wait, so thank you so much. And I want to just kind of preface by saying that I'm not a medical doctor. I can't give you medical advice. And for anything I tell you, I'm sharing with you from my own experience. So just keep that in mind. And everything is not FDA endorsed or anything like that. So it's just my own personal truth, what I've gone through, my whole journey, and it's about how I healed my 3 kids and myself. And in particular, I'm going to focus on how I healed my oldest daughter, who is Abigail, from Autism Spectrum Disorder. So to start, I'm going to make sure that I pay attention over here. So just give me 1 second. Okay, good. I'm going to let you know a little bit about myself. So my name is Gail, and I'm originally from New York, and I live in a few different states. And my background is in education, working from mobile infants all the way up from toddlers, preschoolers to elementary, helping with ESL, and then mentoring middle school students. Welcome, by the way. And then I also have a background working for local governments. So I worked for the Department of Transportation Road Services Division in the state of Washington. I worked for a few different managers. So I have some interesting experience there. And then I also worked in hotel management and hospitality, and I managed the Holiday Inn Express in Portland, which is the one right by Portland Airport. So I have a varied work experience. And then also my studies are in sociology, anthropology, the philosophy of different religions, over 5 different languages, and I'm missing something, and fine arts. So I have a totally different background than what I'm going to tell you, but what I went through is how I got to where I am right now. I think I just make sure I'm paying attention over here. Okay, good. So I'll start off by telling you a story, and then I'll kind of hone in on the autism. So back in 2015, my oldest daughter, her name is Abigail, she was diagnosed with Autism Spectrum Disorder and ADHD. And at that time, I was watching children in my house, and I had stopped working for King County, and I had been already trained to watch children very carefully. However, I had never encountered autism, so this was all brand new to me. In fact, I was kind of in denial that my oldest daughter had autism, but I knew something wasn't quite right. The symptoms that she had were she was very aggressive, she was hitting, she was moaning, she was drooling from the mouth, she was going a lot, and she seemed to function outside, but to most people, it looked a little odd. She would cry all the time. She would kind of almost act schizophrenic. She would seem to be talking to something that didn't exist, and then it would tell her something negative, and then she would go do it. So very bizarre behavior. And having worked with children, I was like, something just doesn't seem quite right. So I brought her to my naturopathic doctor, and she referred me to the Seattle Children's Autism Center. And that's where she got the formal diagnoses. And they wanted to put her on medication right away, because I had already known that I didn't want to ever put my children on medication. I was like, okay, what am I going to do about this? Now, the other thing to this is not only did she have her diagnosis, but my youngest daughter, so this is my middle child, was suddenly having issues. And she was having issues where her hips were hurting her. And at 13 months old, she was able to communicate to me, point to her hips and say, "Mommy, I have an owie." And you could put a period at the end of that sentence. I mean, that's how amazing she was at articulating at 13 months old. That's really impressive. I work with children. Most children, they can't even say a full sentence, nor can they make it a complete sentence. So I was like, okay, I'm dealing with a highly verbal little girl that's in pain. So from that, she went from at 5.5 months old, being able to push up on her belly. And if anyone knows the progression, usually children start by pushing themselves up on their belly, and then they begin to pull up, and then they begin practicing walking. There's certain stages. Well, she went from being able to go on her belly, which I have photos of because I was watching other children in my household and taking pictures. And she went from that to suddenly not being able to go on her belly. And this was after something that I cannot say on Instagram or YouTube, unfortunately. But after that, suddenly she was always only able to go on her bottom, and she lost the ability to do anything else. And the pain then went to her feet, and she was scrunching her feet in pain and crying a lot. So I have my first one gets a diagnosis. My second one is suddenly in a lot of pain.
How old was the first one when she was diagnosed?
So the first one when she was diagnosed was 4 years old. So that's Abigail. So she was 4, and my youngest was 2. Actually, I'm mistaken. My youngest was probably more like 1 and a few months. So they're pretty close. And I think Abigail just, yeah, so she had just turned 4, if I remember correctly. Yeah, she was born in 2011. Thank you for asking. And then I also have a third child. So I'm a mom of 3. And my son was just starting on Gerber baby food. And because I could no longer like quickly make food for him because I was watching other children stuff, I thought, okay, let me try Gerber baby food. It looks like it's just pure, and what could be wrong? And so he was, I want to say in the beginning of this, just a few months old when she got her diagnosis, but this story spans a little bit. So there was a point where he started getting like the packaged Gerber baby food snacks. And he started breaking out on his hands and having staph infections because something was irritating his system. So this is where the journey begins. I'm kind of setting the stage where oldest daughter gets diagnosis, youngest daughter is in pain, son's breaking out. And here's mommy who is trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what do I do? And I have the stress of my daughter acting in a very bizarre way. So I went to my naturopathic doctor and I said, okay, what are the options? I don't want to put my daughter Abigail on medication. So she said, well, you might want to consider taking out dairy. I hear that a lot of children respond well if you take out dairy. As she's telling me this, my oldest daughter, Abigail, is sitting there in the office with me and she's biting on a Tillamook cheese. You know, those like Tillamook cheese sticks? So she's biting on one of those, and no sooner she bites on it, I kid you not, she starts going berserk. She starts taking things, throwing them, no joke. And my naturopathic doctor is witnessing this. I said to her, I turned to her meeting, I said, is it possible that the moment that the dairy touches her mouth, that she could have a reaction? And my naturopathic doctor said, yeah, because digestion starts at the mouth. And I was like, oh yeah, amylase breaks things down in the mouth. Okay, so now I'm like kind of skeptical, but I'm willing, because of what I just witnessed when she said maybe you should take out dairy, I'm willing to give it a try. So I actually called up my husband. He was at Costco around the corner while I was at the appointment taking the other 2 so I could have dedicate time to my oldest daughter. I called him up and I said, hey honey, can you not buy that Tillamook cheese that you're gonna buy today? We're gonna start taking out dairy. He thought I was crazy. So he was like, okay, all right. Are you really sure? Yeah, okay. So get home and I said, okay, we're going to take out dairy. Well, that didn't go over too well because I come from an Italian American background and we love our, Parmesan on the pasta fazool and the ricotta and the lasagna and the, so on and so forth, manicat, and I could go on and on. And we love the pastries, which have the ricotta in them also. So, by the way, I've created a new way to do it with cashew cheese, but we'll get to that later. So yeah, so I was like, okay, we're going to take this out. And that was a huge shift. Now, when I was taking it out, within a week, I started noticing that Abigail was changing a little bit. By 2 weeks, she started communicating, making eye contact. She wasn't always making eye contact. And she seemed just a teensy bit different. I could actually have a little bit of a conversation with her. So I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I would classify that as about 25% better based on the story I'm going to tell I'll continue though to make it evident. So I go back to my naturopathic doctor. I'm like, oh my gosh, I took out the dairy, like you said, and my daughter is doing, and she noticed too. She's documenting for me, right? So I have a medical doctor documenting for me. And she's like, yeah, I mean, she's even saying to me, like, do you see these differences and pointing them out to me? Okay. So I go to Seattle Children's Autism Center because at the same time that I had my naturopathic doctor, I was having them work with Abigail, and they were doing behavior therapy. Now I let them know, okay, I've worked with children all the way from mobile infants up. I've been doing the behavior therapy. I said, I want to offer you this idea of what I'm doing and have my naturopathic doctor overlooking it. And they sent me to a class where they poo-pooed the idea that food could make a difference. And they poo-pooed the idea about detoxing, and they poo-pooed all the ideas that I'm going to share with you that have worked. And I went to that class and I was thinking the way I've been trained. I'm highly educated, I went to college. Okay, so I'm supposed to listen to what the medical establishment tells me. But at the same time, I can't deny that when I took out the dairy, it made a difference. So I'm starting to keep my own notes on the side. So I'm keeping notes for them and I'm showing them and I'm date stamping it. And I have it still on my laptop and I'm date stamping where she was, what date, and then what change I made, how she was. So we could see on both ends, and I'm sending it to my naturopathic doctor, the improvements, but they're still going to poo-poo it. Okay, fine. So I go back to my naturopathic doctor and I'm like, all right, what else can I do? And at that same time, I start researching and I'm reading all these anecdotal stories about if you take out the gluten and the wheat, that helps. So that they were really stressing gluten-free, wheat-free, dairy-free. Okay, and that seems to be pretty well known at this time as well. So I went and took out wheat, but I made the mistake of substituting corn. And I thought, oh, yay, we can do this gluten-free. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so easy. There's corn pasta, there's corn tortillas. I can make them with the kids. We can make a little project out of it. Big mistake, because the corn turned out to be worse than the wheat. And that was a shocker for me. And this is kind of interesting. I took anthropology of food, and they put us through learning about why you wouldn't want to have fast food and what gets done to the meat and all of that. But no one ever really went over this corn thing. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to have to talk to my naturopathic doctor about this. So I go to her office and I said, okay, took out the gluten, took out the wheat. She was doing better. And then something happened with the corn. When I see her eat the corn, she, again, getting aggressive and everything. So she says to me, okay, well, then why don't you try taking out the corn? It's like, oh, light bulb. Oh, yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. So I went and, continued to document and had Abigail go to Seattle Children's Autism Center and bring all the kids. So like a huge parade. I got the kids I'm watching with my kids. Oh my gosh. So then what happens next? And then just give me one moment to make sure I pay attention to those who are on Instagram. Hi. I'm not used to doing multiple screens, so I gotta also remember to acknowledge them over there. All right, so where are we? So take out the corn, and Abigail gets 50% better. Naturopathic doctors observing, she's documenting. All right, now I'm like, wait a second. What's going on with the food that I need to take these things out for my oldest daughter to get better? So then I start my rabbit hole research. Okay, what's being done? And I learn all about what most people are starting to know about now, but not everyone, that there's the glyphosate and then there's the GMOs, and then corn is one of the worst with that. And also it's hidden in so many different places in ingredients. They change the name or they call it something else, however you want to view it, and they put it in. And so they hide it in as citric acid, they hide it as ascorbic acid, they hide it in as dextrose, and all these other great names. You can type in Google all the other names that have corn, and a big list will come up, and it's huge. And then if you try to go grocery shopping with that list, you're like, now what do we eat, right? So here I am, just to kind of paint the picture. I got all these kids I'm watching. I was used to making them meals and doing activities. I got my oldest daughter I'm trying to work on taking out food. I had to take out for myself to model it, and I had to take it out for my youngest daughter. My son was still a baby, so to speak, like mobile infant almost. And so it was kind of challenging because I had other children coming to the household and they want to bring their other snacks, and those snacks have all those other things. So then I have to start communicating with the parents, please, let's do this little experiment. I'll make everything, and I have to start learning recipes. Like, how am I going to make everything? And just at that time, it was just the wheat-free, the gluten-free, the corn-free, and the dairy-free. Okay, so I do all that. I'm setting the example, and I'm like, what else can I do? I go back to a naturopathic doctor, and we have the conversation about soy. She's like, I hear anecdotally that if you take out the soy, it might help. Okay, I said, any other suggestions? She goes, you might want to try taking out artificial flavors, anything with numbers, dyes. Oh my gosh, okay, all the candy just went out the window. Bye-bye Halloween, right? So I was like, okay, take a deep breath. And I go back. Now, you can imagine my husband here. So here I am taking care of kids. I was making all the meals, making his traditional, happens to be Filipino meals and such. And he's just about like, he's like getting a little like, because I'm changing everything. I'm changing our whole lifestyle. I'm changing the way we eat. I'm changing our culture into something brand new. But it worked. So Abigail got 75% better. Now, I haven't touched upon Adeline. So Adeline, my youngest daughter, remember the one with the pains that went all the way down, scrunching her feet and such. I didn't know exactly what was going on. So I went to a traditional medical doctor before going to my naturopathic doctor, and she was saying that we should test for spina bifida. There's no way. I mean, she came out just fine. Like, I can't imagine. And she was okay. And oh, she suddenly get that, put her through an MRI, and no, she did not have spina bifida. So then we did blood work. All right, let's see if there's anything that could possibly be in the blood work. Nothing came up. So I go back to the doctor and I'm like, what do I do? Adeline's in pain. I'm sending her pictures like crazy so that she believes me. Look, I'm documenting it. I have like a list of how Adeline suddenly was having a growth delay, a gross motor delay, all after something that I can't say on Instagram or YouTube, unfortunately. But I have pictures of, was okay, not okay. So I'm perplexed, and I didn't quite understand and grasp what was going on. And she said, well, have you considered getting a food sensitivity test? Oh, what's that? And she's like, okay, so it's where you prick the finger and you put the blood on 5 circles. Oh my gosh, that sounds traumatizing already as I say it. And then we test for over 100 different foods to see if there's a food allergy or food sensitivity. Okay, oh dear. So I hold on to Adeline, we do the 5 circles, we put it through, and guess what shows up as being an issue for Adeline? Who wants to take a guess? Can you want to take a guess here? I'm sorry? Oh yeah, if you read ahead, yeah. Yeah, so eggs was the big one. So what comes up is, let's see here, the wheat, the gluten, the dairy, the corn, the soy, and the magic thing, as she already figured out, was eggs. Eggs was all the way in the red zone at number 5 on this IgG food allergy food sensitivity test. Now that's not the same one where they prick your back and test for allergies, just to differentiate. So I had to take another deep breath because Adeline loved eggs. I mean, we had taken so much else out. And like, what else? At the time, I was thinking, what else is left? Now I know so much more, right? But back then, this is what I was thinking. So it was a really hard thing. And I had also, again, take out that item for myself. So going through this whole process, I'm just going to jump to, because you're probably wondering what happened with Jeffy. So my youngest son, Jeffy, I did the same thing as he was progressing to mobile infant toddler, and the staph infection, everything went away because he was growing up with not having those things in his diet, past the baby food and the baby snacks at a very young age. So, so I took all that because I didn't even realize that Gerber had all this hidden stuff in it. And if you can't say it on Instagram, but afterward, if you want to have a conversation, I can tell you more about what's in Gerber baby food that I didn't know. But I can't, unfortunately, say it. So So then what happens? I go through this period of changing everything, taking this all out. I got the kids that I'm watching, we're doing this. My first recipes were horrible. Just horrible. I was like, what do I use? I didn't know. And back then, 2015, 2016, all the products that we see now that they're trying to market, they weren't there. So it was really like figuring out from the beginning. I was such a good baker beforehand. Now I got to go through and change everything. Oh my gosh. So I start having health problems. So now we got the kids that were having health problems, but they're getting better from the change of diet. Adeline eventually started walking. Abigail, she got to where I would say about 90% better, and I'll let you know how I got the rest of that percentage afterwards. So Jeffy got better, but my health starts to decline. And so this is just wild. Like, if you could imagine the outside perspective of what's going on, because it's like, well, what's going on in the family? Because everyone's having issues. So I started having pain in my ankles. I started having my spine get out of alignment. My left shoulder got raised. So I was kind of walking like this. I got very bloated, like the stomach was like all the way up to people were like, are you pregnant? I'm like, no, I'm not pregnant. And so then what else happened? The pain started going in the bones and the joints. I started getting foggy head, very fatigued. I couldn't get through a day, and I had young kids. I had to stop watching kids, mind you, move out of my house into another house with the whole family. And then I had a nap every single day. Otherwise I couldn't get through the day. So now I'm starting to wonder what in the world is going on. And then there were other things too, like got some varicose veins, and then my speech started slurring. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, am I getting like MS? And then is that caused just from the stress of trying to help my kids? And I went back to the same naturopathic doctor, who happened to be my midwife as well for home births. And I started asking her, like, okay, what's going on? So she put me through the same IgG food sensitivity test, and she also did it for Abigail. Sure enough, guess what shows up? All those things were causing inflammation in my body, but I had taken them out. But in the test, it was showing that it was causing that. So pretty much what it was is she explained to me that when you do the food sensitivity test, that it can kind of still show up as inflammatory, even though you've taken it out, because I had only recently taken it out. But that was an indicator that I definitely should take it out. So I was like, wait a second, this is my proof, like medical proof. Like, I'm just doing this experiment and this is working. But that was my proof, that IgG test, that like, oh my gosh, what I did not only worked in like just, you could see it, but I got proof on paper that these were causing inflammation. So then I'm back down in my rabbit hole. Why in the world is this happening? And then also, why, if I took these items out, am I not getting better? Well, I didn't know at the time, but I found out when I moved here about 4 years ago in 2018, that at that same time that Abigail got her diagnosis, I had two mercury fillings that were removed, and the mercury was removed improperly, but no one explained to me, and mercury leaked in my system. My naturopathic doctor said, can we test you for what's called Epstein-Barr virus? And I didn't know what that was. And I was like, I have no idea what that is, but I'm not sick. And so she went and ran the reactivation test, which is different. You can't get that from a traditional medical doctor. You have to go to a naturopathic doctor to get it. And so she ran that, and it showed that, let me just make sure I'm giving people, hey, just want to acknowledge you're here. And so where did I leave off? So that was, so I did the reactivation. Yeah, so reactivation of Epstein-Barr, thank you. And I was like, what in the world? Well, that led me to starting to do some more research. And I came across a person, and mind you, I'd already done all this taking out everything. And I came across a person named Anthony Williams, a medical medium. Oh my gosh, I take his book, his first book that he had ever written, and I start reading it, and I go, this is what I did on my own. I didn't know this guy. And look at that. He's promoting what I'm doing. I'm affirmation and a testimony to him, and he is to me, but we didn't even know each other. So again, besides having that medical proof, and then, the Autism Center is looking, the naturopathic doctor is looking, I'm documenting. it's like, oh my gosh, there's somebody else and he's helping a bunch of people and he's doing the same thing for the most part. So that pretty much was like, okay, that seals the deal for that. Now, how do I get myself better? Now, this talk isn't really about that, so I'm probably just going to briefly go over it, but we can always talk about it afterward when we do our Q&A or just when we, chat afterward. But the gist of it is that I had to actually take out the meat, which then set the example for the kids that, oh, let me think about the meat aspect too. So I call it super vegan because all that out and then there's no meat, and all of my recipes in my recipe book are actually vegan compliant. Some do offer honey, but then they also give you the option of using maple syrup or coconut nectar or dates or what have you, applesauce. So the gist of that was I had to take out the meat, and then I had to go do a bunch of different modalities. I started with massage therapy, physical therapy, working out. I had to join gym, which I hadn't ever done before. And I started studying yoga and meditation. And that brings me back to Abigail. So Abigail, remember I said 90% better with the food. There was that 10% that was missing. It's not in any book, but I'll tell you, since you're sitting here, that getting her into yoga and meditation was that last 10%. Because I signed her up for a school called the Living Wisdom School of Seattle, which no longer exists, unfortunately. And they promote education for life. And they were doing pretty much like I was doing, but they had yoga and meditation, which I had yet to learn about. And I started to learn about because of her, which really helped me on this journey as well. And so whether someone has a religion or not, we can all do yoga still as an exercise. And we can all, in any religion, take time of silence, which can be meditation. So that was the last piece for her, and also another really big piece for me. So all in all, let me just make sure I just touched upon all those things I want to say. So all in all, what I came to realize is that food was a big issue, and it was not the food's fault, but it was what was being done to the food. And I mean, my whole world just opened up, and I started learning more and more and more as I got in contact with people, because I was like, okay, now I get it. And David's passing by, I believe about him. Hold on one second, we just make sure we have people still here. Hi, thank you for saying hi, Beach Life. I see you. Okay, and then figure out where I left off. So then the other part that's not in my book that I wanted to share is that I've come to realize that when all these toxins get in the body can only handle so many toxins before it just has issues, and that can manifest in different ways. So for my one daughter, Autism Spectrum Disorder, ADHD. My other daughter, certain toxins plus the food caused her inability to walk. But then by age 2, finally, she was able to walk once. I pinpointed things. And then for my son, and then, for me also, I just lost my train of thought. Somebody help me, where was I? Where did I leave off? Oh, the toxins, okay. So remember the Seattle Children's Autism Center poo-pooed the idea of detoxing, and they made it like, if you were to try any kind of detox, they pretty much demonized it when I went to the class. And I thought, oh my gosh, it sounds so horrible. And they made it sound like really bad, like, oh, if you do this, it's gonna hurt the kid. Well, there's a natural way to detox, and I've created what I call the super energizing detox smoothie, and that's in my recipe book, and I drink it daily, and it has very similar things. This is the really cool part too, to medical medium, but slightly different because it has a different base, and I don't use bananas, and it has other components. So I find that kind of uncanny also that he was doing, like, he promotes this detox, and I was doing that. So I started that back, like, oh my gosh, in 2017, and I've been doing it ever since. And it has in there like cilantro. I don't have, actually, no, I misspoke. It doesn't have cilantro. It has, oh, what is it? It does have the blueberries like he has, and it does have barley grass juice powder and wheatgrass juice powder. But what I've done is then in my recipes, I've added cilantro and pulse in a very interesting culinary way to pull out heavy metals. And that has actually been extremely helpful for my kids as well. So what I'm getting at pretty much is for detoxing, there are a few different things that one can do. So like, let's say you have a child with autism, you can have them take a salt bath, which is really easy. You could take dose, like I mentioned before, and when you're doing your salt and pepper, I usually do a nettle salt that I make, and there's a recipe in here and I'll sell it. So you can do your like salt, pepper, and add a little dose, and you can try experimenting, and then they get the iodine, but they also pull out heavy metals. Same with the cilantro. So I have a lot of recipes where you see that. And then for my kids, they love frozen blueberries. And I know that medical mediums always talking about them. So that again is affirmation, because I started getting the wild blueberries, and that's what he promotes too. So I thought that was really cool, and I wanted to touch upon that. And then pretty much the gist of it is, as you're detoxing out those items. Oh, you're welcome. Sorry, we're almost coming to the end, but I'm going to do the Q&A, so that'll give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you have. And then there's also going to be a replay on YouTube. And then right now we're live on Instagram. So I have two screens I'm managing over here. So then you just want to put in your body after you're taking certain things out of your body. You just want to put in all that nutrition. So that's pretty much my story. And then let me just see here what else I wanted to say. So we're going to do a Q&A, but before we do, I just wanted to also say that I chose the Giving Tree because this is like one of the very few places in Arizona that I can eat and I don't have a problem. And they do everything like I've been promoting and what I use to heal my foods and myself, which is the wheat-free, the gluten-free, the dairy-free. They do have corn, but you can ask for things to be corn-free, soy-free. They take care, like the water, they make sure it's filtered, and that's another big thing here. And I do coaching and consulting. So if someone wants to get into like nitty-gritty specifics of like how to, hey, my child has autism or I have this issue, we can go into that, but we'll save that for later. And then I also want to talk about upcoming events. So do you want to come up and tell them about what we're doing?
Let's do it.
Yeah, come on up. So we're going to have Scott Evans come up. He's from, you can read his shirt, Soul Song Healing Vibrations. It's always a tongue twister for me. So he's just going to quickly tell you about an event that we have coming up. So go ahead.
Well, you can join me. It's our event.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Talk.
Yeah, 1 week from tonight, Gail and I are going to have an event at the Sozo Healing House in Tempe. It's going to be, the theme is transform your life, transformation. And I'm a certified sound healing practitioner. I should probably say that. And I've been doing sound baths for about 2 years. And I met Gail recently. We realized we could combine a lot of our strengths together into one event. So it's going to be sound, Reiki, and food. 3 healing modalities in one.
Yeah, and so I'm going to make the food. I'm also going to go one by one individually and do Reiki while he's doing the sound bowls and the chimes and all of that. So it's like an all-encompassing approach. And then I should also take the time to mention that I do multiple things. So I have the Rainbow Food Rocks, which is the recipe book, and then there's Rainbow Herbals, and that's my store in Tempe, and it's by appointment only. And it's also the website where you can find all my things, like you can find the book, you can find the services. I do coaching, consulting, I do Reiki, one-on-one yoga. I'm a certified yoga instructor. I do meditations, and I also bottle my own essential oils from the Sarga Organic Farms. Because what I've come to realize is what you put on your body is just as important as what you put in your body. So I also started making body products. I make a deodorant, which I carry with me and use all the time. And I also do an even better bar. It's great for cuts, scrapes, bruises, headaches, mosquito bites, especially. My daughter loves it for dry skin and eczema. And then I also sell food products. So I sell local food products and I sell international food products. What else is in my office I didn't mention, but I do?
There's a lot in her office. Yeah, it's amazing all the things that she offers. So yeah, no, I'm just excited. You know, I love doing sound baths just by myself, but this is going to be on a whole other level. My sound baths are very, very intense. A lot of high frequencies on my sound baths. So while I'm doing the sound bath, you're going to be doing one-on-one Reiki at the same time.
Yeah.
So this is, you know, this is meant for people that are really on a healing journey and they're ready to transform. And we just call to be there for those types of folks.
Yeah. So if you want to register, how can they register? Let them know.
It is on Eventbrite. So on my social media, which is Soul Song Healing Vibrations. Of course, I think they know your Your
Yeah, so
place.
rainbowherbals.com. If you go to the blog, you can also find it in the blog and just click the Eventbrite. So if you want to come, it's local in Tempe. And what other details? Anything else?
That's about it.
Okay.
1 week from tonight, and we're
Yep,
super
that's right.
excited.
Yeah, 1 more week.
Yeah.
And then I also have one other event. I'll just let you know too before we open up to Q&A, and that is at Natural Grocers on October 1st. We're going to demo. Chef Debbie Reese is flying in. She's going to do 3 of my recipes for me so that I can actually do the talking, kind of a shortened version than what you just heard, but more on the food aspect and less on how I help my children feel, but just more focusing on the food for about 20 minutes. And they're going to do sweet potato sliders. That recipe is not mine. It's from Chef AJ. So if anyone knows of Chef AJ, so we're going to have probably about 4 different things. We're going to have my my ice cream, my peppermint ice cream, my almond milk, and what's the other one? Oh, I can't remember what the other one is that we're going to be doing for my book. Oh, the salsa. The mango salsa has black beans and has cilantro and dulse in it and all that good stuff. So that's free, and that's at Scottsdale Natural Grocers. And again, if you go to the blog and then just click the link, then you can register on Eventbrite for free. And that one, there's going to be a huge kitchen too. So lots of room for everyone.
Wait, which natural grocery is it? The one on East School Road?
It's Scottsdale, so who knows? Do you know what?
It's
what's the
Thunderbird,
grocery?
yeah.
Thunderbird, thank you. Yeah, Thunderbird.
Yeah.
It's October 1st. So even if you can't make it, I will be doing a live stream and a replay just like I'm doing here. But I mean, the thing is, people probably want free food. So I do recommend coming in person for the free food. Because then, I mean, you can see, actually, I can even show you. Let's see if I can find the recipe. I didn't, this is impromptu, so let's see if I can find it. So you can see my milks. I have an almond milk. I have a cashew milk. I'm going to show the viewers over here too. I have an almond milk. I have a cashew milk. I have a sun butter milk. So there are many options for milks. And then these get used as bases. So I use the milk as the base to make the ice cream, and I do frozen bananas. And as we were talking about medical medium earlier and how I didn't know of him, you know, we happen to both do the frozen bananas too. So here's the chocolate chip peppermint ice cream, so to speak. That's with the bananas. And to get the color, I use spinach. And that also brings in extra nutrients for the kid. So everything in this book, there are 128 recipes that are all this free and vegan compliant. They have breakfast, lunches, dinners, desserts, snacks, so on and so forth. I had to sell it to my kids. So I had to become the expert so that my daughter Abigail would eat it and my son Jeffrey would eat it and Adeline would eat it. And of course, I wanted to enjoy it too because I had to substitute out certain things. I'm working on another recipe book and it's going to be a lot bigger than this one. So yeah, I'm taking my time on it. But feel free to come up and look at these. And also I want to open up a Q&A. So if there's anything you want to ask, I'm going to take a sip of water and then just feel free to ask.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Also need to pay attention to Instagram if they have a question. So let me see here. She's great. Oh, thank you. Please come to Long Island. I'm from Long Island, New York. Oh, so funny. Oh, thanks, Aunt Joe. I see that. Love you too. Oh, that's so cute. Very sweet. Thank you. Yeah, if you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. I'll come back over and check.
Yeah, I got a question.
And same thing over here. Feel free to put your question in the chat. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so, yeah, I went to natural. What's the difference between, I understand you to like a raw food diet versus.
Okay. And then I'm always going to preface, because I didn't tell both of you that I'm not a medical doctor. So anything I say can't be construed as medical advice. Yeah. So just from my own experience. So I went from doing this, and there was a time period where I went all raw. And all raw for me personally, I just did fruits and vegetables, and I made lots of creative things. And some of that is actually in this book because I fell in love with certain things like my date balls and such. But I went pretty strict because the part that both of you didn't get to hear was not only was it my oldest daughter, my youngest daughter, my son that I started having problems, but for me it was way more severe because it was looking like relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis almost. They didn't diagnose me as that, but the symptoms were so similar because I'd be okay, I wasn't okay, crazy pains I went over earlier that you can catch in the replay. So it depends on like how how fast do you want to do things to clear up whatever the issue is? For me, with trying to run around with 3 kids, it was pretty immediate. Like I had to get better. So I did experiment with going to the extreme. Now, I do know that there are more severe detox symptoms when one does that as well. So I would say to just explore that and just see, what feels comfortable for you. What I do in particular is usually help people take out one thing at a time and kind of see what helps in this category here. But if you want to, you could do like my friend, Dr. Ben Benulis, he was here last month and he mostly does fruits and vegetables. I mean, he has videos, he's sitting there eating big mangoes for breakfast. It's very similar to what I do. I mean, I start with a juice, I go to a smoothie, which is my super energizing detox smoothie I went over. And then I go to like some fruit, I'll cut some mangoes, some pears, whatever calls to me for the day. I have a lot of it in the house. And then I'll kind of transition into my meals. So there are a few, you could take many different routes on it. It's really just what feels right for you. And so like, if you wanted to explore with me how to do that, then we could kind of go through whatever the issue is and where you are and what you feel comfortable with and so on and so forth. Anyone else for a question?
Sidebar. There are some raw food. It's our lifestyle. There's a nice sized group that
Oh,
does.
good.
The plant power people of Arizona.
Oh, yeah. Do go ahead and, share information.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
I'm not gonna.
I can take the email. and find out what-
Yeah. Well, none of us are.
But there was a time I was 100%.
Some of us were. But anyway, so.
Let me just check here to see if there are any questions also. And if not, then what we'll do is we'll. Okay, so.
Now it's- everything's on the cards now.
Oh, okay, I see. You guys know each other. Hey, RoboClick, I see you just came on, so make sure you catch the replay because we're just about over. If you have a question, please put it in the comment section right now because we're gonna be ending the video. It actually cuts us off after an hour, so make sure to get your question in and then catch the replay.
The soy-free, what about fermented soy? Would you recommend that in any way for anyone?
At this time, I don't recommend any of the soy. And it's really unfortunate. That's why I always say it's not the food's fault, it's what's being done to the food. And
Well, if it was organic or fermented, still no.
test it for yourself in your own body because I can't really say I'm not a medical professional. I just know from my own personal experience, anyone I've worked with, the soy still can be an issue. I can't put my finger on it. It's kind of like when people say, well, what if I grow my own corn? And I'm like, I can't quite put my finger on it, but something has changed. A lot of things have changed and they're changing even more now than ever. What did you want to say,
Well,
Scott?
yeah, no, I found that too. The fact, even though it's organic, it
Yes.
doesn't even matter. I've had issues with soy myself, and it doesn't matter. I can just get rid of it.
Yeah, and so I've had to do that with a lot of things because people are like, well, what if I get the best eggs, Gail? I mean, I got it from the farmer down the street. They're like the best eggs you could possibly get. And I'm like, no. When I was studying about MS and such and many other conditions, it seemed like eggs came up and they couldn't quite put their finger on it. Now we can go and explore certain people like medical medium that goes into why he thinks that. And I can't really say too much because again, there's Instagram and YouTube and there's something called, I can't even say it, that starts with a C. So I can talk to you when we're not recording. And then I can tell you what's probably going on with that. But that's a shame because a lot of people want to get into homesteading. And I started a huge garden in my backyard during the whole world situation, that's what I'll call it. And I started growing fruit trees and everything. And I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, I don't eat any of that. But the thought crossed my mind for a split second, like everyone's getting chickens and hens and having eggs. And I was like, no. So that's, it kind of gets interesting. And then there's currently this promotion of being vegan. And so I kind of look at, there's two types. There's what's being promoted as vegan, and they're saying, oh, well, I got this plant-based burger and it's made with all this artificial junk in it. You can have a look, it's vegan, or you can have fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, things like that. that nourish the body. And you can explore when you grow your own too. It's quite amazing. The taste is so different and the nutrients are so different. So you can kind of explore, you know, all of that. Let me check here to see if this person had a question and then I'll answer the next one. Okay, so he didn't ask any questions, so. Okay, next question? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious, so I'm trying to do some testing for allergies and sensitivities that I know of. I have no allergies, but I have a feeling like I don't think everything agrees with everybody. So what would be the best way for me to test, or is there like a place or a program that you recommend for the best results so that I know what it is I need to eliminate? Yes.
Yep, and so that's what we went over earlier during my journey.
Okay.
Is and I'll just say it so this way, some people just jumped on, so they didn't actually hear that part also. So I did the IgG food sensitivity test. You will need to go to a functional medical doctor or naturopathic doctor to get that. Conventional medical doctors, from what I have experienced, do not offer that. And then it's the one where they prick your finger and you put blood in 5 circles. I know that sounds horrible, but it's not as bad as it sounds. And then they run over 100 different foods. Now, something to remember with that, and I didn't go over that earlier, so this is now extra information for the replay, is that you could have a fruit or vegetable come up, and that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the problem. It's just, it's reading what's causing issues in the body, but how to interpret if that's good or bad, it's not very crystal clear. So what I gave the example, or the example I gave earlier, was my oldest daughter, Abigail, my youngest daughter, Adeline, and I had that test, and these foods were coming up as being highly inflammatory. And we figured out, based on the fact that I had already taken out these items and my kids got better, that it was a negative thing. However, also what came up as being an issue was lemon. So I had taken out lemon, I can't remember, it was for one of my 2 kids, thinking lemon was bad, but it was actually exactly what my daughter needed. So what I figured out was it can trigger the test and it'll show you what's causing inflammation, but you have to kind of take it out, put it back in to kind of see what really is the issue. So I figured out that the fruits and the vegetables, unless you're anaphylactic, and again, I'm not a medical doctor, it's just from experience, unless you're anaphylactic, those fruits and vegetables are probably what you really need when they're showing up as causing a reaction in the body. But these items seem to be the negatives when they show up on that test, especially for number 5, which is the red zone. And again, you know, take your test and you can go ask other opinions too. Like when you get it, and if your naturopathic doctor says one thing and you don't agree with it, you can always take it around to other people as well. And then if you need a reference, Dr. Evan Vandriel is great. I don't know if you already know who he is. Who else is really awesome? I don't know if Dr. Ben Trudenulis runs those kind of tests. I know he's a chiropractor, but I don't think he's a medical doctor. So Dr. Evan Vandriel can do all that. He does acupuncture. He's at my holistic healing fair, actually. There's, let's see, acupuncture. He does, he has something called a beamer. He does chiropractic, and then he functions as a medical doctor as well, all in one. But he's really naturopathic. And he does, I'm going to mispronounce it, kinesiology, I think it's called. He does muscle testing. So he would be my first choice. If for some reason that doesn't drive, like you need him in, like for the 15-minute intro and you're like, no, then there's also Dr. Strome. He's a lot more expensive, but he is also recommended. But you have to get in early with him because he's highly booked. So they don't take insurance is another thing. They do offer their own insurance plans, or at least Dr. Evan does. So just something to keep in mind. Let me just check over here, make sure there's nothing else over here. All right, I see the thumbs up. Thank you. Oh, one last thing I want to make sure I cover, but if you have another question, just let me know, is the books that are for sale. I didn't bring my Square reader, but I do have my laptop. So if you have a phone, or you can use my laptop if you're interested in purchasing one of the books. They're $34.99 and then plus tax. And if you pay cash, I'll pay the tax. What I always tell people. And you'll have to go through the website to purchase it. So as soon as you go on rainbowherbals.com, it's right there, the book you should see in the shop. And then you can click it and then just put in the code ONSITE. It's capital ONSITE. It's all capitals. And ONSITE will make it so that it takes off the shipping. So it's like a in-person pickup. And then if you decide later on you want it and you don't want to pay the shipping, you can do a few different things. There's Amazon Prime, there's blurb.com, or you can come to my office and then just put in the code ONSITE and pick up. So, any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to end the live before it cuts me off. No. Okay, so we'll chat after. I'm just going to turn all these off so that's no longer recording. So thank you for staying here. Ending this recording.